Welcome back to another Canada is not expensive. You just have big city syndrome video. Oh yes. I know a lot of you guys are just running to the comment section to talk about why are you talking about Canada is not expensive and so forth so on. Cost of living in Canada can be high. But let's be honest, there are some places that's more expensive than others. Like for example, if you live in the bigger cities, the Torontos of this world, the Vancouvers of this world, the big cities of this world, there's a big city tax that you have to pay. High housing prices, high transportation bill. If you drive a car to get to one location to another, it takes you 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes. High gas bill leads to more car repair. All of these things, right? Whilst if you live in a smaller community, you have lower housing prices, right? Definitely, that's a fact. You have less transportation bill because it's small. Ultimately takes you 10 15 minutes max to get from one end of the city to the other. Less gas bill, less car repair potentially, and so much more opportunities to grow. And we talk about it every time in our videos, and we're saying that listen, a lot of persons who are not necessarily complaining about Canada being expensive, but complaining about their own situation of them not being able to afford the cost of living in Canada and so forth so on, and because of that they find that Canada is not working out for them, especially immigrants or even Canadians as well. Well, let me ask you guys this. Have you ever considered moving to a smaller city? Have you ever considered moving to a smaller location that gives you a better opportunity to grow, to strive, to achieve things? If it's even on a temporary basis, for a year, for 2 years, I feel like 3 years to invest, and then you can always move back to the big city. Have you ever considered that? Now, I've done a few videos on other platforms like TikTok and Instagram where I share the very same things. And some of the common comments that I see underneath those videos are stuff like, why would I move to a smaller city? There's not even any jobs there. There's not even as much jobs in a smaller city like what's in a big city. Or there's not even any opportunities there. There's nothing to do and so forth, so on. And yeah, those are some of the comments. Now let's address it. Let's start from the common one that there's not enough jobs in a smaller city. And I'm going to call it a misconception. And unless you have lived in a smaller city or a mid-sized city, you are not necessarily equipped to make a judgment. Because a lot of times people are working on their perception or the experience of a few. But how many times have you seen persons leave a bigger city and go to a smaller city and end up thriving? Comment right down below and let me know. How many times have you seen persons leave the bigger metropolitan areas and go to the smaller locations and end up buying a house quickly, end up getting promotion in their jobs very quickly, and so forth, so on? It comes down to really demand and supply. Now, if you guys are watching this and you are economic majors or you have done any form of economics, you know that when demand outweighs supply, it leads to scarcity. And also, equally, when supply outweighs demand, it leads to excess. Now, when you're in a bigger city, what do you think? Do you think the demand outweighs the supply, or do you think the supply outweighs the demand when it comes down to jobs? It simply means that there's many more jobs available in a bigger city, but you have a lot more people, equal more demand for those jobs. So equally less job opportunities because there's a scarcity. Because unless you're super qualified or experienced in your field, it's highly unlikely that you're gonna grow and really reach your full potential in a bigger city because you're competing with the best of the best and whole it more persons are more qualified or even experienced than you because you're competing with millions of people. For just for more context, I use my own personal experience. I live in a community called Grand Prairie, Alberta, which is northwestern Alberta, mid-sized city, population hovering between 65 to 70,000 people. Now, I have been living in Grand Prairie for 6 years, and over that tenure, I have managed to accomplish so many things as an immigrant, landing in Canada with just $100. Now, I graduated college with a diploma. With a diploma in business administration, and my only qualification from back home was really my high school graduate, where I did some CXCs, which is Caribbean examination, and also a few college classes here and there, but I did not complete college. And I was able to get major roles here in Grand Prairie, ranging from bank manager to senior financial advisor to senior customers, so many different major positions within organizations where I'm now find myself in charge of hiring and coaching and developing talents and stuff like that. I'm like, sometimes I pinch myself and I look and I say like, coming to Canada with such um, I'd say not high-end qualifications, and then I find myself in rooms that, in back in my home country, or in some cities, you'd have to have a certain level of qualification to be in. I don't think that would have been possible in other cities. Equally here in Grand Prairie, I know persons who are branch managers of banks who only have a high school diploma. Yeah, you heard that right. Whilst I know persons who are in the bigger cities with their bachelor's degree, their college bachelor's, graduated with even others, honors, can't get a teller job. It simply means that when demand outweighs supply, then people are going to choose the best. But where supply outweighs demand, it's very likely that as soon as you have a little skill set to move up into a role, there you go. Now let's talk about housing prices. Housing prices are cheaper in rural communities because demand and supply, again, where more persons want apartments to rent, it's going to drive up rent, going to drive up housing prices, and so forth, so on. But in a rural community, it's not the same, right? The challenge though, when you live in a rural community, there's not enough things to do. And that is a deterrent for a lot of persons. 'Cause a lot of persons want things to do on a daily basis, weekly basis. They want to be able to have fun. They want to be able to feel alive. They want to be able to, do things. And I can understand that. And I'm not here to tell you that that's right or that's wrong just because I don't necessarily understand it. But what I would say is it's okay to want that. But you can plan your life in a way where you can go to a smaller community for a little while, save some money, grow up in a profession. Because, like, for example, if I should move to a bigger city right now, the experience that I have already garnered here in Grand Prairie, being bank manager to senior financial advisor, all of these positions is very beneficial when I move into a big city. So no, even though I don't necessarily have the qualifications, I have the experience that can make me super competitive when I choose to move to the big city. So you guys can do the same thing too. It's really taking a step backwards to go many steps forward. So the next time, think about it. Is Canada really as expensive as you think it is? Or do you really only have big city syndrome? And that's just a term that I'm coming up with for persons who don't want to leave the big city for whatever reason, right? Now, it's not that bad to live in a smaller city. I'm not telling you to go and live off grid. I'm not telling you to go and live in a remote place where you can't even pick up phone signal, or there's no bus service, or all of these amenities are not there. I'm just telling you to scale down a little bit, right? So you can find a community with population 100,000 or less. Over in between, say, 60 to 100,000 people, and you'll find that there's a lot of opportunities. And also, the other thing that I think persons also not necessarily misinterpret, but look at as well, is like, if you have a special needs child, is there going to be services or enough services that cater for your family in a smaller city? The truth of the matter is there might not be. And that's just the truth. I'm lucky to live in a community that does have services that, for my daughter, she can get a lot of specialized services for her needs. But there's many small communities that doesn't do that. So I'm saying that if you're gonna look for a small community, look for a small community that offers those opportunities as well. Because there's many that does it, right? So you want to definitely look into that, and so forth, so on. Anyways, guys, so thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you guys think about this topic right down in the comment section. Smash a like, of course, and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to the Anderson's Family YouTube channel. Until next time, see you guys in the next video.